U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnik has taken a direct swipe at Canada's auto industry, sending shockwaves through the sector and raising urgent questions about the future of cross-border manufacturing. Speaking at a high-profile conference in Toronto, Lutnik reportedly told attendees behind closed doors that in the automotive sector, the hierarchy is simple: America first, Canada second. The message, though delivered in a private setting, quickly reverberated through the business community, leaving many Canadian industry leaders concerned about their place in North America's economic landscape. Ontario Premier Doug Ford, who was present for the entire address, said the message was unmistakable. Washington wants Canadian auto manufacturing shifted to U.S. soil. Ford described the atmosphere in the room as tense, with Canadian officials realizing that their long-standing partnership with the U.S. was being openly challenged, and now history seems to be repeating itself. The pressure on Canada's auto sector is mounting once again, echoing past trade disputes and economic tensions. Another senior American official, this time Donald Trump's Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnik, is openly warning that the United States will always prioritize its own auto industry over Canada's. This isn't just rhetoric. It's a clear policy direction that could reshape the future of North American manufacturing. His remarks were blunt and left little room for interpretation. For the United States, our auto industry will always come first. Anyone else comes after. The tone was unapologetic, signaling a new era of economic nationalism south of the border. Lutnik even hinted that car production should move south, potentially tearing apart the deeply integrated manufacturing network Canada and the U.S. have built over decades. The cross-border flow of parts and vehicles, once seen as a symbol of cooperation, is now at risk of being disrupted. Lutnik's comments were not random, off-the-cuff remarks. They were deliberate, calculated, and meant to send a strong message to both Canadian policymakers and industry leaders. It's a clear signal that under Trump's leadership, Canada is no longer being treated as a partner, but as a competitor. The era of easy cooperation appears to be over, replaced by a more adversarial approach to trade and industry. The implied threat was obvious. The U.S. wants to consolidate automotive manufacturing, even if it means undermining Canada's economy and putting thousands of Canadian jobs at risk. For Canada, the road ahead is uncertain, and the stakes have never been higher. Canada's former NDP leader Tom Mulcair explained that none of this began with Canada. The roots of this trade conflict stretch far beyond our borders, shaped by decisions made in Washington and Beijing, not Ottawa. Mulcair emphasized that Canada was drawn into a global power struggle, not by choice, but by circumstance. Our government copied America's strategy. When the U.S. slapped a 100% tariff on Chinese EVs, Canada matched it almost instantly, not because it benefited Canadians, but because we were trying to stay aligned with Washington. The decision was made quickly, with little debate, as officials felt pressure to show solidarity with our closest ally. But in doing so, we put our own interests at risk, prioritizing loyalty over careful consideration of the consequences for Canadian workers and industries. We gained nothing for that loyalty. In fact, what we received instead were public threats. The U.S. administration made it clear that our support was expected, not appreciated, and that any deviation could come at a cost. We were told we were becoming the 51st state. Critics argued that Canada was losing its independence, simply following orders from south of the border rather than standing up for its own economic interests. We were warned that the U.S. intended to target our auto plants and other critical industries. The threat was real, and it sent shockwaves through communities that rely on manufacturing jobs, leaving many uncertain about their future. And of course, China hit back, imposing tariffs on Canadian agricultural products, especially canola, hurting farmers across the prairies. The ripple effects were immediate, with export markets drying up and prices falling, putting family farms under immense strain. Taxpayers are now footing the bill through farm supports, all because we entered a trade war that wasn't ours to begin with. The cost of loyalty, it turns out, is being paid by everyday Canadians, workers, farmers, and families, who are left to deal with the fallout of decisions made far from home. Even Premier Doug Ford called Lutnik's comments a massive threat. The warning wasn't subtle. It was a blunt reminder that Canada's economic fortunes are often at the mercy of decisions made in Washington, not Ottawa. Ford's reaction captured a growing anxiety among Canadian leaders and businesses. What happens when our largest trading partner starts seeing us as competition, not an ally? He's right. When a top U.S. official says manufacturing should leave Canada for the U.S., that's not diplomacy, that's economic coercion. It's a signal that the rules of the game can change overnight and that Canada's prosperity is never fully secure when it depends so heavily on American goodwill. That is Washington saying, we will take care of ourselves first. And if that hurts you, so be it. It's a message that echoes through every trade negotiation, every tariff, every policy shift. The U.S. will always put its own interests first, even if it means leaving its closest partners scrambling to adapt. So why is Canada still enforcing U.S.-style tariffs on Chinese EVs? Are we protecting our own interests, or just following the American lead out of habit or fear of reprisal? These tariffs hurt Canadian farmers, limit consumer choice, and make it harder for our industries to compete globally. They don't just target China, they boomerang back, hitting our own economy where it's most vulnerable, and they raise vehicle prices for Canadians, making it harder for families to afford the clean, modern vehicles that are shaping the future of transportation. China's ambassador laid it out clearly. Remove your EV tariffs, and China will lift its tariffs on your agriculture. It's a straightforward offer, one that puts the ball squarely in Canada's court. This isn't about favoritism, it's about reciprocity. It's about recognizing that trade is a two-way street, and that Canada has leverage too if we choose to use it. It's an opportunity to reopen a multi-billion-dollar market for Canadian farmers in Saskatchewan and Manitoba, who have been shut out of China for years due to political disputes and retaliatory tariffs. And it offers consumers access to affordable, high-quality electric vehicles that are reshaping the global auto market. More choice means more competition, better prices, and faster adoption of green technology. This is not about Canada choosing China over the United States. It's about Canada choosing Canada, putting our own workers, farmers, and families first, and making decisions that reflect our own interests and values. For years, Ottawa's trade approach has been to shadow U.S. decisions, even when those decisions hurt us more than they hurt them. We've become accustomed to following, not leading, even when the stakes are high for our own economy. China's offer is leverage, an opening for Canada to regain economic ground, rebuild its agricultural exports, and show that we can chart our own course in a rapidly changing world. It's a chance to modernize our EV supply chain, diversify our global partnerships, and reduce our vulnerability to the whims of any single trading partner. Imagine a different path, one that asserts our independence instead of our dependency. The choice is ours, if we have the courage to take it. This debate goes far beyond imports and exports. It's about national identity. Are we a country that simply reacts to Washington's demands, or one that shapes its own future with confidence? The U.S. has made its intentions clear. China has made its offer clear. Now Canada must decide what kind of nation it wants to be. If Canada truly wants to prosper in the coming decade, it needs a new strategy, one that invests in local EV production, strengthens our agricultural markets, and trades intelligently rather than defensively. We must build partnerships that serve Canadians, not American political interests. Every nation eventually arrives at a defining moment, a choice between dependency and independence. Canada's moment is right now, and the question is simple. Will we continue acting as a secondary player in Washington's economic plans? Or will we finally take the wheel and drive our own future? Stay aware, stay independent, and always ask who gains from the decisions made in Canada's name. Because ultimately, only Canada can safeguard its own economic destiny.